When you think of homelessness, what images come to mind? If you're like most, you might imagine someone sleeping on park benches, living on the streets or in cars, or staying in an emergency shelter. If these images come to mind, you are correct, but only partially. The people you see in the streets are just the tip of the iceberg, representing less than 20% of the homeless population in the city of Lethbridge. My name is Tara Slade, and I'm a fourth-year nursing student at the University of Lethbridge. Today, I am encouraging all of you to support the City of Lethbridge Housing First initiative. However, first, I would like to discuss the problem of homelessness in Lethbridge. In its most limiting definition, homelessness is those using emergency shelters and those sleeping on the streets. Homelessness does not discriminate against anyone, regardless of race, religion, age, or gender. People from all walks of life can be homeless or on the verge of homelessness. Families with infants and young children, individuals who are employed full-time at minimum wage, youth disconnected from their families, veterans, post-secondary students, and individuals who are faced with health-related issues and disabilities from our very own community have no adequate place to go home at this moment. It is quite possible that the young woman who served you coffee today is a single mother at risk of homelessness if she encounters just one more expense. Perhaps the middle-aged gentleman who pumped your gas will spend tonight in an emergency shelter. Even though he works full-time, the gap between his income and routine expenses such as food and rent are just too wide. Would you be surprised to know that the family you saw on the bus today has no adequate place to call home? That because of having to make decisions between childcare, rent, and food, sometimes housing is the option that has to be eliminated. While factors leading to homelessness are anything but simple, some of the major causes of homelessness in Lethbridge include at least one of the following: the rising cost of housing, poverty and lack of affordable housing, divorce, domestic violence, and lack of family support, broken relationships, chronic health problems and physical disabilities, sudden job loss due to injury or illness, mental illness, drugs, alcohol and gambling addictions, and natural disasters. Keep in mind that while each individual's experience includes one root cause, there are many factors that influence homelessness. The National Coalition for Homelessness states, the lack of affordable housing and limited scale of housing assistance programs are the primary causes of homelessness. The growing gap between the number of affordable housing units and the number of people needing them has created a housing crisis for the poor. In Lethbridge, people experience many barriers to housing, with the main reason being lack of available, safe, affordable housing stock. Lethbridge currently is experiencing less than a 0.1% vacancy rate, which is primarily due to the current economic boom in Alberta, the migration of people searching for work, the backlog of housing construction, and the lack of multi-family housing units. Homelessness and poverty are linked. Poor people are frequently unable to pay for housing, food, childcare, healthcare, and education, meaning that difficult choices must be made when limited resources only cover some of these necessities. Often, it is housing, which absorbs a high proportion of monthly income, that must be given up. For many people on the verge of homelessness, one illness, accident, or one missed paycheck could result in homelessness. In Lethbridge, over 1/3 of the population receives an income less than what is to be determined living wage, putting many housing options out of reach for people. Currently in Alberta, minimum wage is $9.40 an hour. An individual working full-time at 40 hours a week would only make $376 a week, before taxes. The Lethbridge Shelter and Resource Center has capacity for 85 individuals, with in cases of extreme need, people can sleep on the floor, without even a mattress. The shelter in Lethbridge is full to capacity most evenings. Besides this alarming amount of people needing to access the emergency shelter, 46 people were found to be sleeping rough in the 2006 homeless census, remembering that this is only a small portion of the homeless population in Lethbridge. The solution to homelessness is simple: give people a home. The Housing First initiatives pursues just this, giving people a home as a means to ending homelessness. Housing First programs are an approach to ending homelessness that center on providing homeless people with housing quickly and providing services as needed. What differentiates a Housing First approach from traditional emergency shelters or transitional housing is that it's housing-based, with an immediate and primary focus on helping individuals and families quickly access and sustain permanent housing. Housing First is an approach that guides a set of interventions designed to help homeless people transition more rapidly out of the shelter system. It includes crisis intervention, rehousing of families and individuals as quickly as possible, follow-up case management, time-limited or long-term services, depending on individual need, and housing support services, such as assisting people with complying with standard lease agreements to prevent the recurrence of homelessness. Sadly, the future of homelessness in Lethbridge is bleak, unless we take action. There are three possible future scenarios. The first being that homelessness in Lethbridge, as well as other manifestations of poverty, will become much worse as our support systems are further weakened and our public priorities remain elsewhere. The second being that homelessness in Lethbridge will become routine and a normal part of our social and political landscape. The third and most beneficial scenario is one in which homelessness is no longer a problem. As we work to make progress in changing and compensating for the homeless by supporting policies and initiatives such as Housing First, we can provide one of the core needs for human dignity. Adequate housing, adequate income, and adequate support systems are needed to meet the basic human needs that define an adequate standard of living for all. I have a petition I hope you'll sign as you leave this room. It will be sent to the City of Lethbridge and used for consideration when discussing the next 5-year plan to end homelessness. While the root causes of homelessness are clearly complex, the solution is not. The solution, quite simply, is more homes and more community supports in place to help people settle into adequate, permanent housing. This, along with appropriate non-housing forms of assistance, can help people remain in their housing and participate fully and productively in their communities.